Go backstage with us as we share how we pitch and prep for our own speaking engagements on this episode of the Speaking Your Brand podcast. More and more women are making an impact by starting businesses, running for office, and speaking up for what matters. With my background as a TV political analyst, entrepreneur, and speaker, I interview and coach purpose-driven women to shape their brands, grow their companies, and become recognized as influencers in their field. This is Speaking Your Brand, your place to learn how to persuasively communicate your message to your audience. Hi there, and welcome to the Speaking Your Brand podcast. I'm your host, Carol Cox. We have a brand new LinkedIn Live show called Backstage with Speaking Your Brand. This is your opportunity to get behind the scenes of what we do here at Speaking Your Brand, from how we pitch for and prep for speaking engagements to how we work with our clients and our programs to the own marketing and content marketing that we do and the decisions that we make around different opportunities and different strategies. This episode of this podcast is the audio from the very first LinkedIn Live show that we did last week, where we share how we are getting, pitching, and preparing for speaking engagements, especially in-person speaking engagements at events and conferences as more things come back to in-person post-COVID. Now, we'll be doing our LinkedIn Live show live every other Monday at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific. And so to access that, connect with me on LinkedIn. Also connect with our lead speaking coach, Diane Diaz, on LinkedIn. And those links are in the show notes for this episode. You can get the show notes at speakingyourbrand.com/227. That's the episode number for this episode, speakingyourbrand.com/227. You can get all of the links there, the links to connect with us on LinkedIn, and the different links that we mentioned in this episode as well. Now, let's get on with the show. Hi, everyone. Welcome to our new LinkedIn Live show called Backstage with Speaking Your Brand. I'm Carol Cox, founder and CEO of Speaking Your Brand. And with me is Diane Diaz, our lead speaking coach.
Hello, everybody.
We are starting this new LinkedIn Live show so that we can connect with you, and you can attend live if you're doing that now. Let us know in the comments. Tell us live, say hello to us. And then we're going to be doing the show starting right now every other Monday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, 11 a.m. Pacific. So we'd love for you to join us live so you can ask questions and we can pull your questions up and answer them live. And of course, you can also watch the replays once this is done and it's available. We wanted to do this show because this is really your opportunity to go backstage, to get behind the scenes of what we do as Speaking Your Brand. I know that I'm always curious to know what goes on backstage when I'm at conferences and events, or if I'm at watching the theater or watching a play. I'm just as curious to know what goes on behind the scenes as I am what goes on stage. What about you, Diane?
Oh my gosh, always. I'm wondering what they're talking about. What are they doing?
Yes, like what mistakes are happening too? Like what are they like having to do really quickly because someone's costume is coming apart, or
what are they stressing out about?
Yeah, exactly. So we're going to give you like all the dirt of what happens, because that's life. Like life is beautiful, business is beautiful, but can also be messy. And we want to share that with you, and we want to get your questions too. And of course, we also have our weekly podcast called Speaking Your Brand. And that really is trainings, episodes that I do, solo episodes that Diane and I do together, and then our guest interviews as well. So the Speaking Your Brand podcast is an excellent resource, and we're going to continue doing that. And then we're adding this LinkedIn Live show, again, to have this live component every other Monday, starting right now, 2 p.m. Eastern Time. Some of the LinkedIn Live shows will be me and Diane. Some of them will be guests that we bring on. So make sure to stay tuned to that. Connect with both me and Diane on LinkedIn, on our profile, so that you make sure that you see as we're doing new LinkedIn Live shows that you can click that Remind Me button and get those as well. So if you're in the comments right now watching live, say hello to us so we can see that. And today we're going to be talking about how we pitch for and get speaking engagements, and how we're thinking of preparing for speaking engagements as we're returning to in-person conferences and events. I know I'm so excited to do that. I already have some on the books, so we're going to be chatting about that, and also give you some tips and strategies for what you can do thinking about reaching out to event organizers and getting some of those speaking engagements on the calendar. So Diane, I don't know about you, but I'm feeling a little bit rusty for in-person speaking.
Very rusty. I feel like the whole world stopped. Well, it did stopped for a year. And we not only did we not speak, but we haven't had contact with people, right? So it's even just from a social standpoint, I feel rusty.
Yeah, absolutely. And I went to a luncheon last week for the Orlando Women of the Year. I was nominated for that, and so we had a very very small. It was about 25 of us in person luncheon, and I was vaccinated a couple of months ago, so I felt comfortable going, and it was like so refreshing. It actually felt less weird than I thought that it would, but it was so refreshing to be doing things that like we did all the time before COVID.
I feel like it takes on a newness because when I saw you post about that, I thought it felt weird for me to see someone do it. And then I thought it must be so weird to be there and be doing the things that we just all took for granted once upon a time.
It's like we're kind of like tiptoeing in and like we're wearing our masks and like, can we,
Yeah.
do you want us to wear masks or not? They're like, well, if you just grab a glass of champagne, then you can take your mask off. And I was like, all right, done. Give me that glass
Give
and
me a
I'm
drink.
good to go. But it was weird because like we're still all kind of keeping much further distance from each other when we're chatting. Like, normally when you go to events or you just talk to people in person and you have probably like a foot distance between you normally, like that's just kind of
Yes.
like the bubble. But now I feel like it's 2 feet or more
Yes.
that people are doing.
Yes. And I think it's interesting too, because I'm a hugger. When I'm talking to somebody, I don't like to be super close to them anyway. So it'll be interesting for me personally to see how we balance the hugging. I've already witnessed like the urge to hug someone, but you're both like, I'm not sure we're allowed to do that yet.
Yeah, we did a lot of elbow bumps as greetings,
Yes.
like not shaking our hands and not even quite the fist bumps, but like the elbow bumps. So
Mhm. Yeah.
that was good. All right. So I would love for you all to let us know in the comments. Are you feeling a little rusty for your in-person speaking engagements? Again, you are far from alone. This is what we've been working on with our clients, both one-on-one and our Thought Leader Academy, is getting them prepared to return to in-speaking. So we'll talk a little bit about that as well. And so let us know in the comments if you're excited for in-person speaking engagements. If you already have some on the calendar, let us know whether you're watching live or watching the replay. What month is your next in-person speaking engagement? We would love to know. So as of right now, I have one coming up in September of this year, and then I have one on the books for January of 2022. So that feels like very manageable and very doable for me at this point, since now we're at the end of May.
Yes, I feel like you can go to the September one, see how it goes, remember some things like, oh, I could do this better. And then you could put those into play for your one in 2022.
Exactly. And one thing that I'm in keeping in mind is getting from the event organizer ahead of time, like what COVID protocols do they want to have in place? And I'm sure they'll be getting that from the venue that they'll be hosting it at, so that you make sure that as the speaker, that you feel comfortable going in and that you make the audience feel comfortable as well with whatever those COVID protocols are that they are doing. So let's talk a bit about pitching for speaking engagements and how we get speaking engagements, kind of give you the behind the scenes, the backstage of how that works for us. And so the ones that I mentioned that I'm going to be doing the in-person in September and then the next one in January, those both came from relationships. They're actually both prior clients of Speaking Your Brand. So they're hosting their own events and reached out to me to do these workshops as part of the events that they're going to be doing. So for those of you who are listening and watching right now, the relationships that you've built with people over time, those really are your best assets to go back to and to ask them, what events are they doing? What conferences that have you been to in the past where, and also maybe you were supposed to speak at an event or conference in 2020 that got canceled. Go back to those event organizers and ask them, when are they thinking of rescheduling for right now? And then let them know that you're still available and that you're excited to speak for them once they get something back on the calendar.
Yes, absolutely. That's a great idea.
So definitely go back to your relationships, go back to prior events and conferences that you've spoken at, reach out to them, so just send them a very short, quick email just to see, if what they're doing, and then get on a phone call with them if that's something that you want to do. The second thing is visibility. The other reason that those past clients reached out to me to do these workshops is because they know I'm still active. We still have the weekly podcast. We post on LinkedIn all the time. We also post on Instagram. And so they know that we're still doing things. And so that they know then that we would be up for doing more speaking engagements. And I know, Diane, that you get a lot of inbound requests from your LinkedIn profile as well.
I do. I think, when you work on kind of building your presence as a speaker, and then you've already been doing speaking and people know that you do that, as things start to open up, they're going to reach out to a sure thing, right? Because they want to give a good experience to the audience. So I have gotten inbound requests from people organizations I've already spoken to in the past, or that I had some connection to a member of the organization that maybe saw me speak somewhere else, and, speaking engagements like that. And then also just from people searching for speakers through Googling have found me. So having visibility and making sure it's clear that people know you speak is going to be really helpful right now.
Yeah, so for sure, update your LinkedIn profile. If you don't already have the word speaker in your headline, definitely add the word speaker in your about section, where that kind of that top description area. Put that you're a speaker, that you'll do both virtual and in-person speaking engagements, and what your topics are and your audiences. Give them an idea of that, because we hear from so many clients, both our clients in Thought Leader Academy and the clients who have gone through our LinkedIn for Speakers Masterclass, that once they start updating their profile and letting people know that they do want speaking engagements, they start getting those inbound messages and requests.
Yes, it's amazing how you put it out there. People will find you, but you have to tell them what it is that you do.
Yes, absolutely. And I know you just mentioned about Google searching, and this is another reason why we really recommend to our clients to create a speaking page on their website. So put your speaking page up there, put your topics on there, your audiences, put words like keynote speaker, workshop facilitator, women speaker, the keywords that people will be searching on, and also your location. So Diane and I live in the Orlando, Florida area. So if you put that on your speaking page, sometimes people are looking for local speakers in their particular metro area, so they would find you there. And so that happens quite a bit. Just a couple of weeks ago, I got an inbound request from a woman who did a Google search, found our Hire a Speaker page that's on the Speaking Your Brand website, which is where we put our clients' information. So one of the benefits of being a Speaking Your Brand client, of going through our programs, is you get listed on our Hire a Speaker page. So this woman found it and I asked her, what did you search on? Because of course I want to know for SEO.
Yeah.
And she said, I searched on women speakers for hire.
Oh, interesting.
So this was a paid speaking engagement that she was hiring for, and she found one of our clients. And then I made the introduction with her and that client for that particular speaking opportunity. So don't discount Google searching, SEO, and having a speaking page, because it really can pay off quite a bit.
Yes. And I think that's it's like a multi-prong approach. You can't rely on just one thing, right? So you want to have a little bit in all the places about you, whether it's on social media and then a speaking page, and make sure it's in your LinkedIn, and make sure you're pitching and doing all those things. But you have to tell people that you speak, right? Because there is someone out there Google searching for this.
And the more specific you are with your topics, your titles, your audiences, the types of groups and events and audiences you speak to, the better, because they'll be searching for a lot of those specific things. So in that Hire a Speaker page example, that woman who found that page, she was looking for someone who spoke on specific topics. And then as she was reading through, she found one of our clients who spoke on exactly those topics. So the more specific and the more niche you are, the better at getting found for these.
Oh, yes.
And another example of visibility is episode 226. And Diane, since you interviewed this guest, tell us a little bit about her and how visibility has benefited her.
Yeah. So her name is Sydney Cummings, and she is an online fitness person. So she has a very successful and high subscriber YouTube channel where she puts free workouts. I think she has over 1 million subscribers to that channel. So then she also is very visible on Instagram. Obviously, she's doing these workouts and things, but the reason why I interviewed her is that she had recently gotten invited to do a TEDx talk. So I wanted to talk to her about, not only how did it go, but also how did she come about getting that talk? And so in our conversation, we talk a lot about visibility and authenticity, but specifically how her visibility and being out there, obviously through YouTube, but also, she does kind of behind the scenes on Instagram and shares all this content, someone somewhere obviously was aware of her and reached out to her, and they invited her. She didn't even pitch herself. They invited her to come and do a talk at TEDx UC Davis. And so, that is a really great example of when you are visible, and certainly hers is on a much larger scale, but still visibility works. Having people be aware of what you do and what you're known for and what your expertise is works to get you found for opportunities like that. And I'm certain that her visibility played a part in that.
And getting very meta here, and this is the backstage part of the show with Speaking Your Brand, is so Diane, you knew she was doing a TEDx talk.
Yes.
Well, how did you find out about that?
She shared about it. Yes, right. So she shared it on all of her channels. She talked about it she's mostly on Instagram, but she shared about it on Instagram. And not only did she make a post about it, but she actually did behind the scenes on Instagram stories. So she did a little sort of montage of, okay, now I'm working on my script. And she showed kind of the computer screen of her script that she was working on, and a whiteboard maybe where she had like jotted down some ideas. She actually gave us a view into what she was working on. So she started talking about it well before it happened. And then she also, I think, shared about it on Facebook, and she invited people to come to it and said, go here and get the link because it was free to attend. So she really, was out there talking about it. So that's how I ended up knowing she was doing this. Of course, I attended it virtually to watch it. And then that's how she ended up being asked to be on the podcast. So
make sure to listen to that. And then there's a link in the show notes to Sydney's TEDx talk, so you all can watch that. It's very powerful. So that's episode 226. And so here's another tip for you all. When you are preparing for your speaking engagements, I remember I used to do this with my in-person workshops, is that I would go to Kinko's and print out the workbooks for that workshop that I was doing. And I would take photos like, oh, I'm preparing for the workshop. Here's the workbooks that I'm printing out right now. And then I would post that on social media.
yes.
So that's another way to let potential event organizers, podcast hosts, etc., know what you're doing, is share those behind the scenes of how you're preparing for your speaking engagements.
Yeah, because you never know who in your audience is watching that. I even asked Sydney in the interview, how did somebody know you? How did you get this TEDx talk? And, she wasn't sure who it was, but obviously based on her visibility, someone in her audience was familiar with what she did. So if you're out there sharing the behind the scenes, someone in your audience is going to see it or know someone, and they're going to share it with that person. That is a great way to kind of spread the word that you are a speaker looking for speaking engagements.
Yes. Yeah. So like Diane said earlier, let people know that you're a speaker and that you're looking for speaking engagements, because that's one of the best ways to actually get them, is to do that.
Yeah.
The other thing, so we're talking about pitching for speaking engagements, how to get speaking engagements, especially as we start getting into post-COVID with in-person events and conferences. If you have questions, let us know in the comments. If you're here live, let us know, put live. If you're watching the replay, put replay in the comments so that we know. And the other thing to do is submit speaking proposals to conferences. And we have a number of clients who are doing this right now. Diane and I are creating our list. We use Asana as our project management tool. And so we have different boards in there for different things that we're working on. And we have one for different conferences and events that we're interested in pitching to and to speak at. Diane, I know you were telling me earlier that you've been working with some of our clients in the Thought Leader Academy on the titles of their talks. So can you give us a little insight into that and why creating a really good title is so important?
Oh, yes. Well, so let's address the second question, which is, why is it so important to create a good title? When you're submitting to speak at a conference or, TED, just submitting to speak to TED or wherever you're pitching for yourself to speak, you want the title to capture attention, and you want whoever the selection committee or person is that's choosing these speakers to feel like they're giving value to the audience. So that the title should be clear, but it also should be engaging, interesting. That title should draw people in and make them want to hear what you're going to talk about, right? So then creating an interesting title, naming anything is hard. I mean, I can't imagine having a baby. That must be extremely hard to name a baby, but naming anything is difficult. Titling your talk when you're in it, creating it yourself, can be so challenging because you almost can't see what could be because you're kind of mired in the detail of it. So I have been so excited lately working with our clients in the Thought Leader Academy, because I've been helping them come up with these interesting, fun titles that they're clear enough to give an idea of what the talk will be about and what the benefit of coming to the talk will be, but they're also fun and interesting so that it captures attention. And the title then is going to stand out from all the other, planning your exit strategy from your corporate job. That's, okay, that's very straightforward, but what is something more interesting, right? So think about how you can make it engaging enough to spark interest and make people want to come to the talk. And that has been so much fun.
I love it. And when I think about titling, I like to make sure that it's very specific so that the audience knows, yes, this is for me. So they know, and then also that it's results oriented. So what is it that they're going to get out of your session, out of attending your session? What is the result that they want out of that? And then adding something that's kind of clever or funny or something that draws some interest into the title, either the first part of the title or the subtitle is a great way to do that. And then the other thing, Diane, I know that you work with our clients a lot on is helping them to identify and develop their framework, including an acronym or an alliteration for it. And so frameworks are very powerful. We've done podcast episodes on this, and I'll include some of those links in the comments here on LinkedIn. And so I also want to know, for those of you listening on LinkedIn, do you have a framework right now in your business that you use with your clients? Let us know. And if it's an acronym or an alliteration, I would love for you to add into the comments what it is. Whether you're watching live or watch the replay, let us know. And so Diane, tell us a little bit about the frameworks, the acronyms that you help the clients create.
Yes. And so I don't know what's more fun, the naming or the frameworks, but I love both of them because I like words. And I think it helps if you like words to try to figure out either an acronym or the 3 A's or the 3 C's or, whatever it is that you come up with. So, do you want to know the exact ones
let's hear some.
So I'm working with a client now and her acronym is MOVE In. And so it is very specific to her industry and it is using her process. So it was so much fun to find a word or a phrase, in this case, it's 2 words, that works for the industry, but also for the sort of the mindset she wanted the audience to have when they hear her talk, right? To move into something, to almost like a new beginning in a way. So it was fun to work on that with her. And then I can't think of the other one that I was thinking of.
Hers was funny. I don't think it was an acronym. It was.
Oh, right. It was more like a way to explain a situation that everybody's dealing with. And it was to liken this idea of mental wellness or how to sustain mental wellness to the dumpster fire that we had in 2020. And so she went off and did a bunch of research about dumpster fires, which I just find it's genius. It's hilarious, but it's genius. I mean, it is absolutely genius to talk about how a dumpster fire helps to explain why we need to work on our well-being. So I just thought that was brilliant.
And it provokes curiosity because you see that title and then you're like, oh, well, I want to learn more about dumpster fires and how I can make sure that I'm not in one anymore.
And I think the other thing it does is it capitalizes on a cultural phrase that we all sort of use to say anything, whatever, is a dumpster fire. Yesterday was a dumpster fire, or my lunch was a dumpster fire, or my meeting was a dumpster fire, right? So we all have used that phrase. In fact, I got my boyfriend a Christmas ornament that has a dumpster on fire on it. It has 2020 on it.
That's hilarious.
It's just as a fun way to remember. I'm sure we won't forget 2020, but I think when you capitalize on something that's in our culture and in the nomenclature that we use, that's fun too, because everybody can identify. Everybody's going to hear that and go, oh my God, right?
Absolutely. And as those event organizers are looking through all the proposals that they get submitted, what is going to stand out to them? And having a title that's interesting to them provokes curiosity. And then if you have your own framework, then also the event organizers know the speaker is not going to go and just kind of present generic information that people have heard 1,000 times before, that it's going to be something that's proprietary to them, that's unique, and that's very specific to their topic and to their area of expertise.
Yes.
And I know that when I'm thinking of titles for my own presentations or acronyms and alliterations, I'll literally just grab a blank piece of paper and then I'll just start jotting down words. And then I'll try to figure out, will it be an alliteration? Is there a word, an acronym that I can do there? And we do this, I know all the time with clients too. We'll be on our Zoom calls, I'll just grab the paper and we'll just start brainstorming away.
Yes, it's so funny. Whenever I'm working with a client, usually what happens is we have our first session and then my brain already starts working. So while I'm on my walk, I'll get out my notes app on my phone and I just start thinking of words related to their industry. And I might write down 50 words and then I start looking them up later on to find connections between them. So that's how I start to come up with the ideas. So it's really fun to just kind of brainstorm what that could be.
Yes, we think about you all the time.
We really in the shower,
Yes.
while I'm making my coffee, while I'm walking, you're always on my mind, clients.
I don't know if that's reassuring or if that's
I'm not sure. Right, maybe it's a little creepy. I'm not sure. But it's always with the best of intentions.
No, absolutely. All right. So that is so submitting speaking proposals. So think about your titles, think about your framework, because your framework also then helps you write the session description and the takeaways, those bullet points, the takeaways that the audience will get, which is also what those event organizers are looking for.
Yes.
And then the other thing that I've noticed with our clients is that, and this is the case probably for most of you who are listening and watching, is that you do business in a very specific niche, a certain industry. So look for those conferences in that industry, the groups and associations. I'm thinking of one of our clients, Rhonda Peterson. She works with clients who are in the finance industry. So bankers, CPAs, financial service providers, things like that. So she's been submitting speaking proposals and she's done a lot of speaking for the CPA groups, banker groups, things like that. And so when you have that established niche, this also makes it easier for the event organizers to say yes to you because they see that you have a track record, that you're already familiar with that specific audience of theirs.
Good point.
Do a Google search for call for speakers for your specific industry. So call for speakers, CPA conference 2021 or call for speakers CPA conference 2022. And if you see that they have an event coming up, but they haven't announced a call for speakers yet, it's not open yet, make sure to sign up for their email newsletter. Follow them on social media so that you do get alerted as soon as they do open for speaker submissions.
Yes. And sometimes those conferences will even have on their website where you can sign up to be notified, like via an email list. And then I also sometimes will search for conferences for women 2021. Like if I specifically want to speak to women. And so I'll get this list and some of them are relevant, some of them aren't, but just practice like Googling with different terms and you'll find all sorts of conferences, events, everything.
And I have found that creating a speaking proposal helps me to clarify so much what my topic is, because I may have like a vague idea of what my presentation topic, what I want to work on, but then having to actually put together the speaking proposal provides so much clarity. So it's such a good exercise to do in and of itself. Now, the other thing is regarding speaking proposals, and we hear this sometimes from clients, is that they'll say something like, well, that event's going to get a lot of submissions, so I'm not going to bother, or I don't feel like I'm ready yet, or don't feel like I have enough experience yet to submit for this particular conference or for this event. And what do we say to that, Diane?
You have to do it anyway. You have to submit anyway, because what is the worst that can happen is they say, not a good fit this time. That's okay. If nothing else, you have now gotten clarity on what it is you speak about. And ideally, put that all in a Google Doc, save it, right? When you do the submission. And then the next time you want to submit for something, you can tweak it, improve it, and then you've kind of got it all started to begin, already. And then you can submit to another one or that one the next time, but you have to do it anyway.
Yes. Do not disqualify yourself.
No.
Before someone else even does. And we see this a lot because, they've done these studies where they have women and men who submit for job postings, and that the men will submit even if they only have half of whatever the job requirements are. But a lot of women feel like they need to have all of the job requirements in order to apply for that position. And I feel like a lot of the times the same thing happens with speaking proposals or putting ourselves out there for speaking, is that you're going to continue to gain experience. You're going to continue to ladder up your speaking experience, your speaking fees, the types of events that you go to. And we all have to start somewhere. And I submit for speaking proposals sometimes for conferences, and I don't always get picked. I don't have 100% track record. Probably most people don't, but that's okay.
But I think that's probably made you really good at crafting the submission and the messaging that you put in there, your title, your takeaways, your little summary. Because if you don't get practice doing that, how do you get practice doing that? Right.
Exactly. Yeah. So maybe what you can do for those of you listening and watching is make a list of some places events and conferences you would like to speak at in the next 6 to 12 months. And maybe do some searching, look through LinkedIn, do some Google searching, make a list, and then put your speaking proposals together for at least 5 of those events.
Yes.
All right. That's your homework. That's your homework, everyone.
Always homework.
Submit for 5 speaking. All right. So that was on getting speaking engagements and pitching. So we talk about go back to your relationships, ask them, are you planning any events or conferences in the next 6 to 12 months? I would love to speak at them. Visibility. So maintain the content marketing that you're doing on LinkedIn, on Instagram, podcast, YouTube, whatever it happens to be. Keep that updated. Make sure you have a speaking page on your website that has those keywords on there for SEO, for people doing Google searches, and then submit your speaking proposals. All right. If you have any questions, let us know in the comments. We're going to go now to our section on preparing for your speaking engagements. As we mentioned, we're all feeling a little bit rusty from doing in person. And so do some virtual speaking, especially if you have new material, new presentations that you've been working on, and maybe you just feel like you need a few more practice rounds on it. Speak to some smaller groups, do your own webinars to your own audience. It doesn't have to be a big group. It can just even be 10 people, 10 or 20 people on a Zoom that you're doing your presentation to, and that could help also to kind of get yourself back out there. For in-person, if you do want to start getting more practice with in-person, I recommend starting small and local. It's just going to be easier for you to access. Reach out to some of those business groups, networking groups, women's groups. You may have relationships with them before COVID, and see if they'll have you come and do a lunch and learn with their group, just to kind of ease back into it. And I know, Diane, that both of us sometimes when we're creating our presentations, we get stuck in that messy middle of it. And you're working right now on a new course that we're putting together all about personal branding, finding and using your voice as women. And so tell us what you were working on last week.
Yeah. So I was working on this particular component of it on finding your voice, and it's quite a lot of content in that particular module. And what I was trying to do was, obviously I didn't want to create a video that is 20 minutes long because that's not interesting. So I was trying to figure out where to do the breaks so I could, maybe split it into 3 videos. And I was so bogged down in the middle of the content that I couldn't see what that looked like. And I was kind of swirling in my head. I got so frustrated that I was just like, ah! So I had to just step back from it. And it's funny because I know our clients go through this, right? So it was funny while I was in it, I was kind of also out of body seeing myself doing it and thinking about our clients. Again, you're always on my mind. So I was thinking about my clients' experience when they've said to me, oh my God, there's so much and I don't know what to do with this. Oh my God, help me. That's how I felt. So I said to myself in my coach voice, put it away. Just put it away for days. Like, don't even look at it tomorrow. Put it away. So I did. And then I went back to it. It was probably almost a week later. And then I all of a sudden had much more clarity because I could actually see a process for getting to what the natural breaks were instead of just sitting and looking and looking and looking and not finding and getting frustrated, which just turns into a spiral of frustration. So I was able to kind of step away, come back, see where I could do the breaks, and it worked out. And I have such a better appreciation, obviously, for how our clients feel when they're in the middle of that content. It is very frustrating.
Yes, especially because,
and that's why you need a coach.
Yes, because so many of us, like, we're experts in our field and we have a lot of content. We have a lot of things that we can share, but we have to pare it down or figure out what is the best use of that. And I know what I'll do a lot of times is that, again, I'm like, we use the computer all the time, Google Docs galore and Keynote slides and all of that. But I really like to go old school, and I'll, again, pick up a piece of paper. It's like a different part of the brain gets access, and I'll literally clear my mind, not look at my previous notes or not look at my slides that I have already, and just write a rough outline from scratch. Like, what are the most important things that this audience needs to know? And I'll jot all that down, and then I'll go back to my other outline or my slides and start rearranging from there.
Yes, that's exactly what I did, because looking at a Google Doc full of words just starts to look like a jumble, and you cannot even see, where did I start to even get here? So if I took a blank piece of paper and wrote down the bare bones, now I'm back on track.
Yes, absolutely. So lots of good techniques out there. Doing
Hmm.
voice memos. Also, I know Diane and I, we both like to take walks, especially with COVID last year. And so I would bring my phone and I would, get ideas. And so I would do voice memos. So that's also a great way because then you can transcribe those and start kind of taking notes from there. And then we have a question here from one of our LinkedIn watchers, Lee Rambo, who's in our Thought Leader Academy. And she was one of our summit speakers for our April 1st summit. And she wants to know some examples of keywords that are good to include on LinkedIn. Diane, what would you recommend?
Yes, well, a couple of things. So, first of all, if you want to get speaking engagements, you must include that you are a speaker somewhere in your profile, obviously in the headline, but also in the about section. Talk about yourself the way you want to be seen: speaker, workshop facilitator, any of those things. But then also, the keywords can relate to your specific industry, right? So, if I'm talking about speaking, if I'm a speaking coach and I want to talk about thought leadership or building your voice or building your personal brand, I should include those, pepper them throughout my LinkedIn profile or even content I'm sharing there. So, start with the generic ones of speaker, keynote speaker, all of those things, but then think industry specific.
Absolutely. And our LinkedIn for Speakers Masterclass, our
Yes.
Thought Leader Academy clients get that. But if you're not in the academy, and our academy will be starting again in October. So if you want to get access to our LinkedIn for Speakers Masterclass and purchase that now, so you can start working on your LinkedIn profile to optimize it, you can get that at speakingyourbrand.com/LinkedIn. Again, that's speakingyourbrand.com/LinkedIn. And the clients who have gone through that masterclass rave about it. Diane put it together. People literally just open the videos, watch the videos, have their LinkedIn profile open on the other tab, and then update as they go. So it's very efficient, and you're going to be able to like kind of do it as you're watching it. And it's a great, excellent resource to go through for that.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So we are wrapping up now. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions, and if you've been watching either live or in the replay, let us know in the comments. Say hello. Let us know if you have any in-person speaking engagements coming up on the calendar. Would love to hear that. And if you also would like to work with us on your signature talk, on your framework, we have our Thought Leader Academy starting again in October, but if you need something sooner, we do work with clients one-on-one in VIP days, as well as longer coaching engagements. You can get all that information at speakingyourbrand.com/coaching. Again, that's speakingyourbrand.com/coaching. Our next LinkedIn live show will be in 2 weeks. So that's Monday, June 7th at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific. I'm excited about that. Be sure to connect with me and with Diane on LinkedIn so that you see when we announce that next show. And you can also sign up for our email newsletter if you'd like to be on our email list to get reminded on that. We have a thought leadership workbook that we put together that has excellent resources for you. And by opting into that, you also get it on our email list. And that's at speakingyourbrand.com/guide. Again, speakingyourbrand.com/guide. Lots of links. I'll put those in the LinkedIn comments here so that you all have that. And I'm so appreciative of you, Diane, for coming on our new
my pleasure.
LinkedIn live show called Backstage with Speaking Your Brand. And for those of you, if you're watching the replay and if you have specific topics that you want us to talk about on future LinkedIn live shows,
Yes.
let us know in the comments. Really, we want to take you behind the scenes of what we do for our own speaking, what our clients do, what we're doing in the business for Speaking Your Brand as far as content marketing and different aspects of marketing and the programs that we run. So we welcome your questions. And Diane, again, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. It was so much fun.
You can get all the links that we mentioned at speakingyourbrand.com/227. So that's the episode number for this episode, speakingyourbrand.com/227. Make sure to connect with us on LinkedIn. And then our upcoming podcast episodes, I'm going to be doing some solo episodes talking about different speaking styles you can use. That's going to be one episode. And then another episode that I'm working on is talking about different types of thought leaders. Which type of thought leader are you? And I'm going to share with you which type of thought leader I am. So I'm really excited about these upcoming solo episodes. I've been doing research, putting together the outlines for these. And so make sure to subscribe or follow the Speaking Your Brand podcast if you haven't already, so you don't miss those fantastic episodes that are coming up, plus many more. Until next time, thanks for listening.